everybody.
Welcome to the Beantown
Beatdown.
Matthew Bars.
Gabe Shamus.
And today we got a bottle of Arbor Mist White Zinfandel Exotic Fruits. Yeah, my brother was giving me
up nice today.
Yeah, my brother was giving me a hard time about this, saying, "Oh, you drink this on your show? People are gonna think you're a woman." I'm like, dude, we drink everything on this show.
Exactly.
And my co-host is gay. So, also a little quick shout out to our friend K-Dog. He was going to be our guest on the show today, but he's out with a cold. So, right. K-Dog, we're thinking about you, man.
Yep. Cheers. This is to you.
Yep. Cheers. All right. We're going to get into our first debate of the show. And first debate is on the Abner Mars versus Leo Santa Cruz. Over the weekend, they fought on the same card. They both retained their titles. And after their fights, they both said that they want to fight each other again. They want a rematch. And the big question is, of course, we all know this is going to happen in 2018, but the big question is, when should it take place in 2018?
Why don't you give people some background?
These two fought 2 years ago in August, and I actually saw that fight. It was a tremendous fight. It was a good back-and-forth brawl. Anytime you got two Mexican fighters, Mexican-Americans or Mexican-born fighters in the ring against each other, you're going to get fireworks. It's just going to be plain fireworks when those guys go head to head. And both are pretty good fighters as well.
Right.
So the big question is, when in 2018 should it take place? Me personally, I hope that this takes place on Cinco de Mayo, or Cinco de Mayo weekend. Yeah, I know.
Just to bring up the flair of it, right?
Yeah, and I know that people say, well, that's a little bit too long. What if another boxing match, big boxing match event takes place on that same day? But
and that's not what I was going to say, people might say, but all right.
Well, you know how it is, always trying to capitalize on that.
Right.
But I personally think that's what should happen because, it'll get a lot of Mexican boxing fans out there.
Yep.
And of course, I'll watch it, whether it's free or I gotta pay for it. I'll still watch it. And plus, it's good for it also, whether it takes place in Las Vegas or Los Angeles, it'll still get a good Mexican crowd.
Yeah,
what about you? What do you think?
So, the question I have is, are they Mexican or Mexican American?
I think Mares is Mexican American, and I think they're both Mexican American. I'm not quite sure.
Well, as long as one of them is, because it says not to get all politically correct or whatever, but technically Cinco de Mayo is actually a Mexican American holiday. So it'd be better if one of them is actually Mexican American, not just Mexican. But yeah. Anyway, it'd be good. It'd be good to build up that angle. I see what you're saying about the Cinco de Mayo. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know if any other date is actually would actually be as good. I guess I can see the point about that it might, be too long in the future. I don't know. I think if it's too early, you're in winter. That's not as many people are gonna be paying attention to. You know what I mean?
Well, there are boxing matches that take place in the winter time, but. That's why they have the MGM Grand and the arenas. But,
right.
The StubHub Center in California has been a great place for boxing in California. And in Cinco de Mayo weekend, the weather will be great. It's springtime.
Yep.
And plus, I'll have a Cinco de Mayo party. I always like throwing Cinco de Mayo parties when there's a fight on, get some Taco Bell and shit. But, personally, I think it should take place on Cinco de Mayo. But, of course, I think you say you think it should take place earlier?
Well, no, I was saying it shouldn't be too early. It shouldn't be too early in the game. But yeah, I could definitely see it, them saying, well, we've got momentum on this. We want to, roll it out. So I would vote for sometime in March too. March Madness and such. But
well, March is gonna be hard to compete with the NCAA playoffs.
True.
So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I guess there actually isn't as good a time. I was trying to think, like February. There's just not as many momentous days for this type of thing until then. Yeah, I mean, I would go along with it being earlier, but yeah, I do think it might be best on Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens, and we'll keep you posted on when that fight will be available.
Mm-hmm.
And also, getting into our second debate. Our second debate is the UFC ready for life after Conor McGregor? And the reason I bring this up is because there have been rumors that Conor McGregor will have another boxing match.
Right.
Despite the fact that Max Holloway is the number one contender he's the interim lightweight champion, and they're saying that they want to put McGregor and Max Holloway together in December. But there have been rumors that Conor wants to have another boxing match for another big payday, like against Jeff Horn, the man who beat Manny Pacquiao, even though it was controversially. And some are saying that they want Conor McGregor to fight Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez's people have been trying to get that fight going on in case the Triple G rematch doesn't happen as well.
Right.
So the big question is, well, it's just like I said, is the UFC ready for life after Conor McGregor? What do you think?
Right. Well, unfortunately, I don't know. I don't think so. We've talked before about what it takes to kind of break through to the mainstream, and that's where I come in, because I don't hear from Fight World sources. I hear from mainstream or entertainment sources. So
by sources you mean me.
No, but yes. Anyway, yeah. Anyway, so yeah. Like I said, there are some big names that break through, and Ronda Rousey was a huge one, and McGregor, has been a pretty big one. So I don't. I don't know if they have, and then of course with Floyd out, at least if he doesn't come back out of retirement again, who knows? But with Floyd pretty much going back into retirement, and all that, I don't I don't see or hear who the next big star for them is. And yeah, maybe that's a little bit too, for as a fight fan, I'm sure that's a little bit too shallow or whatever, but it's kind of true, unfortunately.
Well, the thing is, the UFC has some great, the current champions right now, they're great stars, they're good fighters, but they're still not, and some of them aren't, well, some have main evented pay-per-views,
okay,
but they don't bring in the money that Ronda Rousey brought in, or that John Jones brought in, or that Conor brought in. It's like I said on last week's show, right now for the UFC, John Jones is out with a 4-year suspension. Of course, his career looks pretty much dead in the water. Ronda Rousey, like I said, marry Travis Brown, fuck like Minx, raise some Rugrats, live happily ever after.
Yep.
Although there's still a rumor that she could still be heading to WWE. And, right now there's just Conor McGregor and there's just everyone else. George St. Pierre's coming back, but we don't know if he'll go back into retirement after this fight, whether he wins or loses. Max Holloway is a star, but not too many people outside of UFC know who he is.
Right. Exactly.
Joanna Jędrzejczyk, she's she is starting to become that star. She's pretty soon is gonna break Ronda Rousey's record, but title defenses. But once again, not too many people outside the UFC know who she is as well. So it's like I said, at this point, it's just I mean, they're good. They've main evented some cards and stuff, but they don't bring in the money that a Conor McGregor would bring in.
Right, exactly.
And like I said, right now, that's the state of the UFC as far as pay-per-views go. There's Conor McGregor, and then there's just everyone else.
Exactly.
And it's, no disrespect to the other people, but it's a matter of business.
And you say a lot that it's what have you done for me lately, right? Not what did you do before, what have you done lately? That's you've kind of talked about that in defending some other controversial choices that they've made or whatever, but yeah, unfortunately it is like that, and so you can live by that and gain your fame by that, or or you as the star, you as the organization can also kind of die by that. Right now, maybe without a big name star, maybe they'd actually be dying by that. What have you done for us lately? And without McGregor there, what will you be doing for us lately in the future?
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, business has to go on. Yes, I mean, there's always someone ready to take your place. Not to say that there'll be another Connor, or there'll be another GSP, or another, Ronda Rousey. It's just a matter of there's always someone waiting in the wings, ready to do it better than you ever did.
Right. Well, there is, but then at the same time, we hit these low points, it seems, where there's no one fully up to the task, or fully, or have enough name recognition to actually kind of take on that mantle yet.
Yeah, I mean, boxing is going through the same thing too right now. I mean, right now in boxing, there's Canelo Alvarez, Gennady Golovkin, and Vasily Lomachenko. Well, as far as mainstream wise, there's Golovkin, Triple G, and then there's just everyone else. I mean, Manny Pacquiao, yeah, he still fights, but he's got his obligations as a senator in the Philippines, and we don't know if we'll ever see him fight again.
Right, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, it must be frustrating. Like this is one of the times where I'm I'm kind of relieved I'm not a big fan, because it must be frustrating for you. I don't understand what it would be like to have these really high times of all these great people, all these all these big money fights, and now you're kind of grasping at straws. Am I right?
Well, not really, because I'm a diehard fan. I know that not every fighter is capable of of having a crossover appeal.
Right.
But there's a lot of fighters I right now that I love. It's just a matter of how they market themselves. And, it's just a matter of how they market themselves and how much exposure they get. And
well, that's good. That's keeping it positive. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're saying that I mean, I guess the other way to look at it is that there's a vacuum. There's an open opportunity, for one of them to step in.
Yep. And as much as I hate quoting Abby Lee Miller, because God knows how much I hate her, but
yes,
everyone is replaceable, as she would say. God, I fucking hate her.
Right, I hate that sentiment too, but I guess the idea is that someone else with enough skill would be able to come in and do the same thing, given the opportunity and the marketing.
Yeah, we'll see what 2018 has in store for the UFC.
Exactly.
Yeah. And now we're going to get into your weak wrist, so Gabe, take it away.
All right. So, I'm going to be talking about what apparently a lot of other people are talking about. What's, one of the biggest new hashtags, the biggest status update on Facebook is Me Too. Women who are coming forward saying that, yes, I've also been sexually harassed. So, we're, I've talked before about other, types of reckonings that we've been having in the country, better or for worse. And, and it seems like kind of both for this one because yeah, we found out that that a big Hollywood producer, I'm not going to say his name too many times, Harvey Weinstein, has sexually harassed multiple women throughout decades, and it's very, very unfortunate. Not just harassed, but some there are a few of them are allegations of rape, as I understand. But either way, it's really not appropriate. This is, you hold the, you hold the keys for these women's career, in your hand, and men like him, use that and lord it over them, and yeah, unfortunately, manipulate them and do things that they would not want to do, that they're not comfortable doing, and yeah, in some cases, it is like aggressively forced upon them, and yeah, it's just really disheartening stories in a way that you hear, but it's good, in my opinion, that it's coming out to the light, and yeah, that's the whole hashtag movement of Me Too is for all these women to come forward and say yes, it happened to me, and not only that, but I'm not going to keep silent about it anymore, and we have to realize how common it is, unfortunately, how prevalent it is, and yeah, so a lot of actors, big name actresses, have come forward just in the last few days talking about this, because of the Weinstein story, and so Reese Witherspoon, America Ferrera, a lot of like really big name actresses have talked about this, and and it's important to know because let's see, as someone on the Young Turks said, it doesn't matter how successful you've been, or whatever, something like that. Like, that's what this shows, is that no matter how successful you are, your career might have started with something like this that's haunted you for years, or it could still happen to you when you're when you're this big name A-list celebrity. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, it also goes back to what I said before. We talked about women in the workplace, and
yes,
and it goes back to what I said. I've always said that. I always say this with women or people of color and race,
mm-hmm.
is that there is going to, no matter what, there's always going to be a level of racism or a level of sexism that, you're going to have to overcome. And
yeah.
The only thing you can pray for is that the people who came before you made it made the road easier for you.
Exactly.
And granted, talking about, because this has to do with the movie industry, movies and television. It's
right.
Like, we do see women now run their own production companies. Reese Witherspoon runs her own production company.
Uh-huh.
I think one of the ladies, what was her name? The one whose email got leaked, talking about how bad she didn't, about how she didn't like Angelina Jolie. I forget her name, but
I don't know that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are women who are running successful production companies and stuff, and they're,
right.
They're also behind the cameras and doing all this.
Women, what's the word? Directors now. Yeah.
Yeah, they're directors. There's writers. There are production companies.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing their own thing, but at the same time, there's still a level of sexism and stuff that they still have to get over and battle. And this is one of those times, unfortunately, especially for someone like Reese Witherspoon, and
right.
I mean, at a young age and stuff. I mean, I'm surprised she hasn't, been one of those actresses that like turns to drugs and alcohol and
mm-hmm.
and stuff. I mean, granted, she's always had a I mean, she's never been known as a drinker or a smoker or anything like that, but she's always had a level head, a square head on her shoulders. But
Yeah.
I'm surprised she didn't go nuts.
Yeah, and that's and that's really unfortunate that some a woman of lesser determination, less not as I don't want to say not as strong, but not as capable, with handling perhaps her alcoholism and tough times. That it could be a very different story, and for some of them it is, and that's really really unfortunate. That sometimes your coping mechanism with this type of stuff is actually just as dangerous to you, and and everyone will blame you if they hear about it. If drugs and alcohol were involved, that's the other thing, is that part of the reason these women don't want to speak up is that maybe there's something personal, that that if someone finds out, well, okay, then we can discredit your whole story because, oh well, you're an alcoholic. But I mean, these are coping mechanisms, and sometimes people aren't as aren't as strong, aren't as able to avoid these addictions because of these terrible things that happen to them. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. I mean, Reese Witherspoon's always been like a squeaky clean type of chick.
Oh yeah.
Throughout most of her career,
Mm-hmm.
and the other thing about the other thing that's so bad about this is because this really does because male actors who have worked with Harvey and the Weinstein brothers, they've come out and talked and said, like, this is bad, I feel ashamed, this is someone I've worked with.
Yeah.
And plus,
that's the other thing. I mean, good men have to step forward. Good men have to step forward and say, this. Either I did not know this was going on and I'm sorry, or yes, I knew this was going on and I'll never be able. What they should say is, I think, is I'll never. I'm ashamed. That I wasn't able to speak up, and I'll never be able to live that down. But I'm going to, do better for, for my coworkers and and the women in my life. I'm going to do better from now on.
Yeah, exactly. And and think about what this will do for the, for Quentin Tarantino's legacy as well. Because without the Weinsteins, I mean, there'd be no Quentin Tarantino. I mean,
that's an interesting point. Yeah, because I mean, that's a very interesting point, because we can. I mean, I consider Quentin Tarantino one of the equalizing forces in Hollywood. I mean, he made Kill Bill, for Christ's sake. So yeah, he's been a very good big force for good. So that's a very interesting point I hadn't thought of before.
Yeah, well, and I literally say that because having read a biography on him and, read his background and stuff,
mm-hmm.
When you read about it, because, working at a video, you hear the stories of him working at a video store, take some acting classes, and, didn't go to school for filmmaking and wrote scripts and blah, blah, blah. And you're just like, well, gee, it's like, yeah, you hate Harvey Weinstein, you hate the bastard, for what he's done, but it's like, at the same time, it's also like, well, this is the guy who also discovered Tarantino, and it's like, without him, there'd be no Tarantino.
Right, which is tough. It's tough to deal with, and again, that's why it's important for these things to come to light, because it's always a lot more complicated under the scenes. That's something else I was going to say. It's a lot more complicated. The truth is complicated. You know what I mean? And so it's a lot more complicated behind the scenes, so yeah, one way or another, we do kind of have to reckon with it, and it'd be better, to reckon with it, out in the open, and yeah, so all these, Tarantino movies and things that have done, so much for equality and for kind of delving into the human spirit. I don't want to say that there's a stain put on it, but we kind of have to understand the larger truth about it. You know what I mean? So that's a part of it that unfortunately, unfortunately he was boosted up by this guy that we now know what he's done in his personal life. It's really unfortunate. It's terrible, but yeah, also, don't, it's like, don't put too much, I don't know. I still, it's not like I would, it's not like I would actually blame Tarantino himself, but.
Well, yeah, I mean, Tarantino, yeah, Quentin has, I think he does have his own production, Troublemaker Productions or something. Yeah, with Rodriguez, but I think Quentin because Quentin, even though he's a behind the scenes guy, he directs, produces, and stuff. Right. I don't think he's that much involved in the day to day basis. So it doesn't really surprise me if he never comes out and says like, well, or I know people say like, well, he should say like, I'm ashamed of this and what happened and blah blah blah. But at the same time, Quentin's never been like the type of person. He's never been. He only comes out for the media when he has a movie to promote or something, and
right. You're saying he's not like a in front of the cameras type.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not really one to talk about the dirty side of the business, and
right.
It doesn't mean that he doesn't have an opinion or anything. I think it's one of those things where it's like he kind of picks his battles, and it's more like a. No matter what I say, it's like I'm just not going to win. Because there are times when, you can speak out on something, but you have to realize that there are going to be times when you're just not going to win with everyone.
Right.
And so rather than just like take a chance, then it's just like, okay, you know what, I do have thoughts, I do have opinions, but let me keep these to myself.
Yeah.
And that way I won't put myself in a position where I'll be fucked.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly.
Figuratively,
yeah, and yeah, and it's not to say that this is one of those situations, but yeah, I feel like the other thing is, yes, people do have a responsibility to come out and speak about it before the tipping point. But what I mean by the tipping point is when is it actually accepted in the bigger culture that this did happen, and unfortunately with things like sexual harassment, it's actually not accepted until like the fourth or fifth woman comes out, or sometimes even more than that. I mean, with Bill Cosby, it took a lot. Like, people still didn't want to accept it until like the ninth woman came out. And anyway, it turns out there was dozens. So anyway, before the tipping point, yes, you do have a responsibility. After the tipping point, for me, that's a whole other thing. And so, once everyone has accepted it and now everyone is talking about it, I don't, it would be nice if, yes, everyone he ever worked with came out and condemned him, but I don't. I think there's a certain point where that's not actually necessary, and he doesn't. It's not that he doesn't deserve more people attacking him, but he doesn't need more people attacking him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, at this point, Harvey Weinstein's career is done. He's, yeah, nobody's gonna touch him with a 10-foot pole, and granted. But of course, in a way, he sort of wins in the end because I bet he probably has enough money to where he can just like chill, where he'll just be like, okay, my life is fucked now, but you know what, I have enough money now where I can still just sit on my ass and I can just sit on my ass and just chill and not have a worry in the world.
Right. So yeah, that's a whole other thing. Is when it's a man as successful as this, there's all those questions like, oh well, doesn't he have enough money anyway? Blah blah.
Plus, he gets royalty checks from the movies he's made, the good and the bad ones. So
interesting. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So there is that, but I feel like this when there's a reason there's the term stain on your career when you do find these things out, you know, you might get royalty checks, but you know, the actual story, the actual legend, the, you know, the whole framework of your career and who you are, like that's something you can't live down. You know what I mean? So yeah, he might be getting more money, but you know, but I think he is actually going to be losing money from opportunities he would have had, and you know that there's just the whole story of it, the whole story of the legend. He's not going to, you know, it's not going to live it down, you know, and his E True Hollywood story, or, you know, one of those specials will be very different now, and you know, and it will be an open question about whether they should honor him in memoriam at the Oscars.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm sure they won't do it. I mean, I'm sure they're not going to do it now. I mean, maybe 40 or something, maybe 40, 50 years down the line, maybe.
Right.
Of course, by that time, I'm sure you and I will probably be in the grave.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, but exactly. But if he dies, you know, within the next 3-4 years, probably not, right?
yeah, you know, I mean, I am a firm believer in time heals all wounds, so
yeah,
you know, it'll just take a lot of time.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
so but I mean, it's stuff like that you know, that it's stuff that it's easy to get discouraged and think, oh, that, you know, that stuff doesn't matter, but it really does matter. I mean, you know, why. Yes, it's for the money, but you know, when you're in Hollywood, you're wanting to create something bigger than yourself. You know, at least, you know, if unless you're like Michael Bay, you know, or something, like just doing it literally for the money and making crappy films, in my opinion. You know, you know, if you are doing it for, you know, some other reason, then you are doing it for a major other reason, and that's to be remembered, that's to be immortalized and honored throughout time. And you know, so those of you that say, oh, well, it doesn't matter, you know, he's still getting money, it's not gonna, he doesn't care. I think he actually does care. He tried to make good movies, you know what I mean? He tried to be remembered, tried to be immortal, and he would have been, but nope, not anymore. Yeah. So that stuff does matter, you know what I mean?
Yeah. By the way, that little comment you said about Michael Bay.
Here we go.
Oh man, you had better, if we ever get famous from this, you had better not ever go to a comic book or anime convention, because Transformers fans will kick your ass.
All right, come at me, Transformers fans. Tell me why it's a good film. I would love to hear it.
well, I mean, I've only seen part 1s and part 2s. Others, I've heard that I've sort of gotten mixed reviews from one of them, especially the ones that Mark's been in.
Yeah.
But, well, I don't know. I mean, well, time will tell how good they are. And plus, they got the spin-off Bumblebee movie coming out with John Cena, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Anyway, that was a little side note. We got off track there, but yeah, so I mean, it is a big thing. We kind of do have to reckon with this, and yeah, it's interesting that we've kind of come to all sides on this issue as well. Like, you know, with sexual harassment.
By the way, I'm gonna get some more ice.
Yeah, go ahead. So yeah, with sexual harassment, we kind of come to all sides of the issue. We have a powerful man in Hollywood, you know, that we found out did this. We have another powerful man in comedy and, you know, and TV and, you know, so many other things that Bill Cosby was involved in. That was probably the biggest one. That probably hurt the most, just because, you know, people wanted to believe he's America's grandfather. And then, you know, and then there's you know, the leader of Fox News, and then there's, you know, and frankly, there's the president himself. You know, so we actually have both we actually have kind of all ends of entertainment and politics that we've found out sexual harassment pervades. So that's why I think this is also such an important moment. That we're realizing, yes, it comes from all sides. And then that's why Me Too. Regular. It's not just all the celebrities. The celebrities started it and carried it, but a bunch of regular women have started posting Me Too. I've seen, I don't know how many friends of mine post that now, including my sister who just got married. She posted Me Too, hers was just more about being followed by creepy guys, and not sure if she was going to get out of that situation, but yeah, even that, it's it's scary, and it's something I can't pretend to actually know about firsthand. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, exactly. As a matter of fact, shout out to Gigi who just got married.
Yes.
Hey, Gigi, hello.
Yes, that was to you, Gigi.
By the way, your wife is gorgeous.
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, so there's that, and it's interesting too. With been talking so much about Reese Witherspoon. So she, I just on the plane back and forth. I watched a lot of the show Big Little Lies. Have you heard of this one?
Oh yeah, I told you about that one. Remember?
Yeah. Oh yeah, you did. You did.
It was Shailene Woodley, the girl from Divergent.
Yep, yeah, exactly. So yeah, I was definitely psyched to start watching it, and I didn't know when I would be able to. But anyway, they were showing, they had all these channels on the plane, and that was one of the things I could watch. So yeah, I watched like three episodes, 3 or 4 throughout my 2 plane trips, and yeah, so that that's a very interesting one, because you have these A-list actresses, and an actor, and it really is kind of about what the movie American Beauty was about. The kind of look closer at what's actually happening behind the scenes in good old suburbia. And obviously Monterey is a very different type of suburbia with all the beaches and stuff. But and yeah, the interesting thing is that one of the episodes I watched, Nicole Kidman is also in it, and she's fantastic, of course. And but yeah, there's this one scene where she and her husband are it seems like they really love each other, and they're they're overly affectionate in public, and there's a joke about what's the cutoff age for when you should still be mushy, and they're I think 40 you should stop being mushy, but their characters are older than that, than still mushy, but then you find out one thing goes wrong where he gets really angry, and unfortunately it turns into a kind of crazy thing, and
they start having sex with each other.
You saw that one? Yeah.
Oh, so yeah.
That scene is so weird. I mean, I like it, but it's so weird, you know what I mean? And I feel like they literally, in my opinion, kind of found a way, how can we make this just on the line of what consent actually is? I don't know. She provokes him. They start yelling a little bit. He hits her. That's clear that he actually did attack first. He hits her. She hits him. And then he throws her against the wall. And then with their anger, then they start getting passionate and getting into it. She they go at it, but he's at first she likes it, but then he's really aggressive, and then she stops it, and it's a crazy thing. I feel like they literally tried to say, let's blur the line as much as possible of consent there, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, exactly. And it's plus Shailene Woodley, let me tell you something. It's at her, it was a little weird seeing her as a mom, but
I know. That's what I was thinking too. Yeah.
But as the episodes went on, I was like, "Oh man, she would be one hot mother, I love to fuck.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. But yeah. Anyway, so it's interesting that the show that that Reese Witherspoon is in is, you know, actually has, you know, in my opinion, does deal with that, because that's not, obviously that's not like sexual harassment, you know, in the standard sense, but you know, but it's kind of like where does sexual harassment begin within a marriage? You know, is that possible? And unfortunately, you know, the answer is kind of is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And also Zoe Kravitz, Lenny Kravitz's daughter in it. Oh, that's would be
that's who that is.
Yeah, she would be one. She would be a mother I would love to fuck as well.
Right.
Please, Lenny, don't kill me.
Yep. Yeah, she plays the new wife of Reese Witherspoon's ex. Yep. Yeah. And
they have a daughter together themselves.
Exactly. So it's obviously a complicated situation where she shares the daughter with her husband and this new woman, and it's very interesting plot line, and I think it rings true. I think the other thing is that, like, you know, a lot of the scenes are pretty close to reality too. Like they handle it in like over the top ways, kinda, but like it's actually pretty close to how I feel like you'd actually handle it in real life. When the daughter gets birth control from Brandy, that other woman, and she, you know, she confronts her. It's not as much a screaming match, but even though she wants it to be, it's more like, you know, next time, you know, bring her to me, because you remember, she's like, because that's what I would do to you when your daughter becomes old enough. I'll kick that can of worms back to you.
Right. Yeah, you hit it right on the head, and you know, well said. You know, of course, this was one of the subjects we had to talk about today because, as you know, not to be a downer, because we are a sports show, we love to have fun, but this is one of those things where, you know, real life happens, and so therefore we have to talk about it today.
Yeah, and it is about entertainment. So I mean, the other thing is, you know, you know, it's tough to talk about these things in entertainment, because I was like, oh, I have to be down on like my favorite shows, my favorite movies, you know, but really, you know, you kind of come through it. You do have to kind of come through, and then once you do, I feel like you can kind of get to a better understanding about about these movies, about these TV shows, and you know, and it is actually better for them going forward. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that's just really great right there. Yeah. By the way, opening another bottle of Pink Moscato Pineapple Strawberry. I'm trying to open this up here, and we're gonna
using his teeth. There we go.
Yeah, so we're gonna
that's a skill. I'll show the ladies on Instagram.
Yep, we're gonna liven up the mood now with our third and final debate. This is actually a big question. This concerns all fighters. Are certain fighters doomed to fail from the start? And what made me think about this, What made me want to talk about this was looking at the past of fighters who didn't really don't get the recognition they deserve. Even the ones who've won titles and stuff, who never became what they should have became. Oh, this smells pretty good. And I have 3 examples of this. Well, for MMA, there's Jason Mayhem Miller. I mean, Jason Mayhem Miller was a good, scrappy fighter, never became world champion. You know, he always lost to the elite of the elite. I mean, of course, mainstream people knew him from the MTV show Bully Beatdown. Remember that?
Oh, no, I don't.
That's where, like, regular people, like, they would have a co-worker or someone, like an old high school bully or someone.
Yeah.
You know, and, like, the bully would be offered, like, money to fight a professional MMA fighter, and then they would get their asses kicked.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, Yeah, it was actually a pretty good episode too. I mean,
Right.
there was some good. Oh yeah, there were some good episodes like Michelle Watterson, the karate hottie before she became big in the UFC and stuff. She was on an episode where she kicked a bitch's ass, and there was one episode where there was this dude. He looked like one of those dudes from West Side Story with the pompadour hair and the grease lightning look and yeah, and there was another guy who was like he was a car salesman, but he was also a rapper. He was a rapper. He was white, by the way, and he got the fuck beat out of him.
Of course.
So, but Jason Mayhem Miller never. Like he had one title shot against Jake Shields in Strikeforce and he blew it. He lost that. And, and when you see him now, he's like smoking weed. He's getting in trouble with the law. And that segment on Real Sports with Brian Gumbel, it's just, you feel so bad for him at the same time. Because he was all about fun and all about, there was a side of him that did take the sport serious. But then when you see how he acted, it was just like... now his career is totally fucked.
Yeah. So we're talking about are there fighters that are doomed from the start? I've always kind of suspected without actually knowing what I've suspected that there are fighters that unfortunately not have to stay, but kind of have to stay in the shadows. There's for the league to be this big, and for I don't know. I'm sure just like with all other sports, they would say that that not everyone can be in the spotlight.
Well, yeah, I mean, not everyone can be a world champion and all that stuff, but it's. Just to use another MMA example, Jake Shields. I mean, Jake Shields was a champion in Shuto and Rumble in the Rock and Strikeforce. And then when he got to UFC, it was just like... I mean, one title shot against GSP after his first fight in the UFC. He loses, then he loses another match, he wins, and then he loses. And, now he's in the... I think he still fights for the PFL, Professional Fighters League, which used to be World Series of Fighting.
Okay.
But either way, it's like, you look at his career, it's like Jake Shields is like, another what could have been.
Right.
I mean, he was set up to be the elite of the elite, but then once he got to the UFC, he just faltered. And the same thing happens in boxing, too. I mean, in boxing, there's the Jerry Coonies, there's Tommy Morrison, who I talked about in our last episode.
Okay, yeah.
And then you got guys like David Reed and, also Howard Davis, the late, great Howard Davis, who part of the 76 Olympic team with Leonard and the Spinks brothers, who never won a world title. And, you look at all these fighters and, it's like, I mean, it is kind of hard to say if they're doomed to fail from the start, but it's like, but when you look at their careers, it's like, you look at them and you're like, these guys, they really weren't meant to be world champions. I mean, you don't know it right now. I mean, you don't know it right now. I mean, I'm sure there's fighters who we think in the future are going to be world champions, but they won't be world champions in the future. But
right.
It's hard to tell.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I think the other thing that's tough is that this is a kind of like up in the air, anything could happen type of thing. So so like even if you have all the best skills on paper, that's the other thing. I'm sure we've talked about in previous episodes, like the unsung heroes of boxing episode and such. You maybe can have all the skills on paper, but you also need the right circumstances to come down. You know what I mean? And and we've talked about what it would take for certain rematches to happen, right? And it's not as simple as as the fans would like it to be. Like these people fought before. And whatever, and if you were on side of the guy who lost. You're like, I think it, wasn't what it should have been. So let's, get them back in the ring together again, right? But that it's not that easy.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, fighting it's not a tough game. It's a lot tougher in MMA than it is in boxing. And it's, I mean, even in kickboxing too. One that was going to be the last example was it was Bob Sapp. I mean, yeah, Bob Sapp was an attraction. He he beat Ernesto Hoost twice. I mean, Ernesto Hoost is like a world-renowned kickboxing legend,
Yeah.
But Bob Sapp, he never became like the elite of the elite. He never became like to what Ernesto Hoost was, or what Remy Bonjasky was, or Andy Hug, or Simi Schultz. He never became like a Grand Prix champion, and never became like the elite of the elite.
Right.
And it's kind of a shame because he was such a big attraction, especially in Japan, doing all those Japanese commercials and stuff. And, now he's reduced to just doing fights where he takes dives. I mean, whether it's MMA or kickboxing, it's just like it's more like now he just fights just for paydays.
Right. So I mean that's the other thing I was thinking is that I used to think before we started talking about this, before we did the show, I used to think that there were fighters that were actually like supposed to lose, like obviously I'm sure there's another misconception, but like in pro wrestling there's the heel, the guy who comes in and everyone loves to boo, loves to hate, what I mean, that type of thing. So I always wondered if there was that, and in that case they are quite literally doomed to fail. They're literally there to be the one who loses to the champion. So I'm, obviously I know now that that's not the case, but I'm sure that that's still the perception of some people, very casual fans out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so in that case, it's like not only are they doomed to fail, but they're supposed to lose, that type of thing. But yeah, I mean, if you're I like wonder if you are up against this big champion that everyone loves, don't some people feel like, oh well, that person should lose, for the good of the show?
No, it's more like because we also like because we've all seen the movie Rocky, and
right.
We've seen we've all seen those sports movies with the underdogs prevailing, and
that's a good point. The underdog, can come back and and prove everyone wrong, and that's also what you're hoping to see, I'm guessing.
Well, yeah, of course, because and also there are fighters who are real life Rockies. Whether it's Ray Boom Boom Mancini, whether it's let's see, in MMA, I would have to go with I don't know. I can't really think of anybody in MMA that you would consider a real life, Rocky Balboa. But I don't know, maybe like a Matt Hughes who grew up on a farm, or there's a lot of Rocky stories out there, and you look at that and it's like we want the underdog. Oh, Matt Serra. Matt Serra's definitely a Rocky story. I mean, getting knocked out in his earlier careers in the UFC, having to go on The Ultimate Fighter to get to get a title shot and win the contest, get a title shot, and beat George St. Pierre when everyone thought GSP was gonna run over him. Even Carla Esparza being the first women's strawweight champion from The Ultimate Fighter. Yeah, so it's like. There's we always root for the underdog and stuff. I mean,
right.
But
and I'm guessing also you want a good fight. You want you want some heat brought from both sides. You know what I mean? And even if you like, that's something I understand a lot more now. Hanging out with you this long. Like even if you even if you'd like the champion to win or kind of expect that they do, you'd hope that the other guy puts up enough of a fight, and for them to really actually have to prevail, and then if they don't, that's a big upset. That's a kind of crazy turn of events, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So. I guess this is one of those debates where people are just going to have to draw their own conclusions.
Exactly.
Yeah. And, by the way, we had some good wine, too.
It's pretty good wine, yes.
Yeah, I'm a little fucked up.
Me too.
But yeah, it was a good show today. Click and comment on this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Also go to, go to GoFundMe.com, where it's now GoFundMe.com/Beantown
Beatdown.
Right, exactly. Yep. Because we need some money for the show for better equipment and to make the show better.
Mm-hmm. We also strive to be better for you guys.
Exactly, and also go to Beantown Beatdown at Facebook.com.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be doing a blog on there today. Which will probably be up after this episode is done. And also check out the Beer and Brawl show this Friday night. I'll be live streaming it, and I'll be doing a special edition of this one. It's a 3-part episode of the best of Roberto Duran. Yeah, Manos de Piedra. Going to have all his fights on there. And in fact, I actually have the highlights from YouTube, the top 15 best knockouts of Roberto Duran. It's on there right now, so go check it out as soon as you can.
All right, very good.
Yeah, that pretty much covers it. And from Beantown to your town, this is Matthew Barris.
Gabe Shamus.
Bios con Dios.